Let's begin with our webinar today, before which I'd like to place few special instructions for a smooth and successful webinar. This presentation that I'm sharing on the screen now, it shall act as a guide to the participants with audio problems, if any, and others for better understanding. Please pay attention thoroughly and throughout the webinar. I'd request everybody to please mute your computer and mobile speakers until 5 p.m. or until I announce the question and answer session. If there is any disconnection due to technical reasons by me or any of the speakers, we request you to bear with us and we shall connect at the earliest. The question and answer session is from 5 to 5:30 p.m. The panel speakers and I shall address the questions based on to whom the question is put to. Should it require to address the question after the webinar, I shall personally call and answer them. Good evening all. Welcome to the webinar series on corporate scandal proofing. Today's webinar is the first part of the two-part webinar series on the topic, which is today's topic is deep analysis of money laundering and corporate scandal proofing. My name is Kalyan Krishna Bandaru. I am an advocate practicing before the Supreme Court of India and High Court of Karnataka. I will be the moderator for today's webinar and shall address the keynote. I would like to introduce you to the webinar's special guest, panel speakers, and agenda of today's webinar. Our special guest would be joining in some time, Mr. Justice Nagmohan Das, retired judge of Karnataka High Court. Our first panel speaker, Mr. S.M. Chandrasekhar, senior advocate, Supreme Court and High Court of Karnataka. Our second panel speaker, Mr. V.V. Lakshminarayana, ex-joint director, Central Bureau of Investigation. I'll be doing the keynote for today's webinar. Let's move ahead with the agenda of today's webinar. That is a deep analysis of money laundering and corporate scandal proofing. The first topic of today's webinar would be rise and impact of money laundering, corporate scandals, and risks. This shall be addressed by Mr. S.M. Chandrasekhar. The second topic is major reasons of corporate scandals and failures, internal factors, and this shall be addressed by Mr. V.V. Lakshminarayan sir. The next topic is major reasons for corporates paying heavy price, external factors. This shall be addressed by me. Number 4, need for prevention of money laundering and corporate scandal proofing, and this shall be addressed by Mr. V.V. Lakshminarayan once again. I'd like to address the keynote now. Dear all participants, we have made extensive efforts in organizing this webinar series and proud to state that this is the first webinar series in India on the topic corporate scandal proofing. I was personally surprised when I read an article long time ago that there are about 3 lakh companies in India which are under the scanner for money laundering, which is a very serious concern. This could possibly be for 3 reasons. The first, maybe our government agencies are functioning in the full capacity and sincerity, or our corporate houses or companies are getting into high risks for known or unknown reasons, or it could be possibly the both reasons. Majority corporates are being impacted for various reasons, and such reasons which they are unaware of or out of control. Through this webinar, we would like to educate the corporates on various reasons of corporate scandals and tips to prevent the same. I'm of the opinion that the attempt we are making through this webinar shall contribute a tiny bit towards the growth of this country and most importantly towards educating corporates and related professionals on how to become a scandal-free corporate. Our panel speakers are highly valued personalities who have set high bars of standards in their respective fields. We should be really thankful for their valuable time, and I'm sure their inputs today will make a huge positive impact in everybody's day-to-day business activities. This screen is now witnessing India's top-level experience in one frame in the form of speakers and participants. Before we begin with our agenda, I would like to sincerely thank and express my gratitude to the special guests, panel speakers, on behalf of the organizing team and all the participants. Let's begin with our agenda and topics of the webinar. The first topic is rise and impact of money laundering and corporate scandals and risks. This shall be addressed by Mr. S.M. Chandrasekhar sir. I would request Chandrasekhar sir to take over from here and address the first topic.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Everybody are on mute, sir. So you are audible and you can continue, sir.
The object and reasons for bringing this legislation would be very important to understand the scope and ambit of the enactment. Money laundering has become a big menace to the society. It has become a great threat not only to the financial system of the country, but also to the integrity and sovereignty of a nation. Therefore, a political declaration and a global program, one is envisaged by the General Assembly of United Nations, and action plan was propounded. The India being a member of United Nations and being the signatory to the United Nations, a declaration adopted the global program with an action plan to deal with the crime money. All members of the state who are parties to the UN have taken steps to legislate on this subject. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act is brought into force to prevent money laundering and confiscation of property which are derived from the money generated out of the criminal activity or involved in a money laundering. The proceeds of the crime money are being handled by money changers, money transfer services, and other business entities. There are agencies who are actively indulging in dealing with the tainted money. There are several business activities all over the world wherein the criminals are handling or dealing with the crime money, such as casino, dealing with the drugs, terrorists, activists, and extortion of money and funding of foreign countries by hawala, a transaction to destabilize the country. Therefore, the United Nations thought of handling this menace, and they have requested all member countries to have a similar kind of legislation in their respective countries. Money Laundering Act is a regulation entrusted to the Enforcement Directorate, a special and dedicated department. The criminals are given an opportunity to appear before the various authorities, and adjudication is done by the directorate at various stages, right from the stage of search, seizure, attachment, and finally confiscation of all property involved in the matter of money laundering. And after satisfying that there is an element of money laundering and there is a prima facie case for being tried, the matters are being dealt by the special courts constituted under the Act. These special courts have been constituted in consultation with the government and the High Court of a state where the act of money laundering is being tried. To understand the scope and ambit of the enactment, Section 3 of the Money Laundering Act becomes very important to be looked into. Moreover, directly or indirectly attempt to indulge or knowingly assist a party or actively involved in any process or activity connected with the, in the bracket, proceeds of crime, including the concealment, possession, acquisition, and use of projecting or claiming it to be untainted property, shall be guilty of an offense of money laundering. Therefore, to understand what is the definition of proceeds to crime, the Act has defined the crime money under Section 2, subclause U of the Act. Now I will be reading the definition of crime money. Proceeds of crime means any property derived or obtained directly or indirectly by any person as a result of criminal activity relating to scheduled offense or value of any such property, or where such property is taken or held outside the country, then the property equivalent in the value held within the country or abroad. Now, to understand what is the scheduled offense, scheduled offense means those offenses specified in Part A, B, C of the enactment. There is a huge list of the enactment which prescribes that any offense committed and the amount generated out of the commission of these offenses are treated as a money, tainted money. For example, the offenses committed under the Indian Penal Code, the offenses committed under the Narcotics and Drugs and Psychotropic Act, offenses under the Explosive Substances Act 1908, offenses under the Unlawful Activities, offenses under the Arms Act, offenses under the Wildlife Protection Act, and offenses under the Immoral Traffic, offenses under the Prevention of Corruption Act, the offense under the Explosive Act, offenses under the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act 1992, the offenses under the Antiques and Arts Treasures Act 1972, the offenses under the Customs Act, the offense under the bonded labor system, the offense under the child labor, and offenses under the transplantation of human organs, and offenses under the juvenile justice system, the offenses under the Immigration Act, the offense under the Passport Act 1967, the offense under the Foreign Act 1946, the offenses under the Copyright Act 1957, the offenses under the Trademarks Act, the offenses under the Information Technology Act, offenses under the Biological Diversity Act, offenses under the Protection of Plant Varieties and Forms Right, the offenses under the Environmental Protection Act, and the list goes on. In Part C of the schedule, it speaks of an offense which has of a cross-border implication is specified. Therefore, any money generated out of the commission of an offense under this enactment becomes a offense under Section 3, which will be tried by the Directorate by initiating proceedings under the enactment. As of now, there are several cases being investigated by the Directorate. Mr. Kalyan has narrated the volume of the cases that have been under the investigation by the Directorate. My caution to all the CEOs of companies, that they will not be sometimes the CEOs are sometimes very innocent. They will not be knowing that the crime money is sought to be parked in their establishment. Without knowing the color of the money, the entrepreneur will allow this culprit to invest their crime money into the system. There are some CEOs who are deliberately in connivance with the financiers and other agencies who are handling the crime money and being invested into their company. And there are other persons who are not even aware of what kind of money and the people who are trying to invest in the system. If proper precaution and mechanism is adopted by the companies, and they will land into trouble, and they will be part of the offense, as if even though they may not have actually participated. It becomes a burden upon the person who has allowed to invest the crime money into the system. Therefore, it is prudent for all CEOs and all persons subordinate in the company to go for scandal proofing. This mechanism will ensure that any money brought into the system, that is into a company, are being thoroughly checked at various stages and ensure that the business being carried on by them does not involve any crime money, which will attract the provisions of Money Laundering Act. There are several cases now being faced by innocent persons as well as persons who are deliberately involved in handling the crime money, especially in the case of construction activity and in the case of casino. People are investing money into this system. Once this money is routed through these innocent people, and the amount that is being generated or the revenue that is generated out of parking of these crime money, the money that has been invested becomes a white money, and that will be used for the terrorist activity, and there will be insurgency in the nation. It is not only happening in our country, but it is happening all over the globe, especially in the case of drug and terrorist activity. Funds are being transferred from one nation to the other, and it has been utilized for the purpose of destabilizing a nation. Therefore, it is in the interest of all business community to ensure that the persons who are trying to invest into the company are genuine, and the amount that has been sought to be invested into your business are not tainted. Therefore, it is a requirement as of now, because as of now, the CEOs and other officers will have to resort to the scandal proofing method, so that they will be safe and the country will be safe, and you will be discouraging people from making investment into the company who are tainted. You should avoid every possibility of being investment of their tainted money into your system. This is what I would like to place on record. And there are several mechanisms under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. They have the authorities have the power to search, seizure, and search in person, and they have also power to confiscate, attach, and thereafter confiscate the property. And ultimately, the trial by the Sessions Court, that is a special court constituted under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, will be dealing with it, and the punishment that a person would be undergoing on its conviction, he will be sentenced for a rigorous imprisonment to a tune of 7 years, and it can also extend to 10 years. Therefore, it is a caution to all CEOs and other persons who are at the helm of affairs to see that any investment coming into their company is a white money, and it is not tainted, and especially it is not money arising out of a crime committed by any persons who have indulged in the activity in the particular enactment which is enumerated in those schedules. Kalyan, you can take over for the next.
Thanks a lot, sir. Those were very valuable inputs. I'd like to summarize a bit on what Chandrasekhar sir has just briefed on. Sir was more explaining on the concept of money laundering, how monies become tainted, and how should CEOs or the top management of companies, how should they take care of all these monies. It could be in the form of investments, or it could be in the form of day-to-day transactions. And Chandrasekhar sir was trying to establish what could be the repercussions if, in case, your company is unaware of the said transactions or investments, or if they're deliberate. So money laundering cases in India are at its peak now. So corporate scandal proofing could be a solution, is what Sir is suggesting. I'll now request Mr. Lakshminarayan sir to start with his topic, that is the second one: major reasons for corporate scandals and failures, the internal factors of it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalyan Krishna, for giving me this opportunity.
My pleasure.
And also, I welcome Justice Nagmohan Das ji and also Mr. S.M. Chandrasekhar for this webinar. And actually, what's happening in the corporates and how the corporate scandals are being exposed. So that is my topic that is given today. Having the experience of supervising the Satyam scam, this thing, I would like to present some of my observations. And also, in fact, I wanted to present a case study also to you, so that many people have many opinions about what exactly happened in Satyam. If you see the corporate scandals that have happened in the country, Satyam is also one among them. And also, it has so many features of various scandals that have happened all over the world, like the Enron or the all the other things I will be discussing with all of you. And actually, why this is happening, that is one thing we need to discuss. Why the corporate scandals are happening, that is one thing. I always say, for India, the unique selling proposition is spirituality. Spirituality is doing things right and also seeing God in everybody. The moment you move away from the USP of the nation, then all these things will happen, because everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to become rich in a very short time. So this is where we are all leading to. And also there is a lot of demand on the police also, because having served in the police department, I was I served as additional DG in the Maharashtra cadre, and I worked for a brief stint of about 7 years in the CBI. And there is a lot of demand on the police organizations that more and more economic offences wings have to be started. Each district, I think we have somebody who is dealing with economic offences. So the emphasis is slowly shifting from traditional crime to economic offences. So that is where the whole crime is revolving, and also the investigations are leading, or a lot of expertise is being given in the cyber as well as the economic offences. So why this is happening, and why people with so much of knowledge or so much of education are involving in corporate scandals, that we need to discuss. So that is what, with this brief introduction, I thought I'll make my presentation. Yeah, I think I can make my presentation. Yeah. You will be closing your presentation, Mr. Kalyan Krishna?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Just a moment. I'll be closing it.
Is it okay? Now it is visible? Hello?
Sir, your screen is not visible yet.
Okay.
Yes, it's visible.
It's visible now? It's visible now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, visible now.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
If there is any this thing, if it is not visible, please let me know, Mr. Krishna, so that I can do that. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So actually, what are the types of scandals we need to know about? What is happening in the corporates? The first one is called the financial frauds. There are a lot of manipulations, falsification, alteration of accounting record. Then second mode is misrepresentation or intentional omission of amounts. I mean, you don't enter the amounts in your books. Then misapplication of accounting principles. Then intentionally false and misleading and omitted disclosures. The second type of scandals that are happening in the corporates are the misappropriation of the assets. Actually, the executives and other people, they actually commit this misappropriation, like theft of tangible assets, by internal and external parties, sales of proprietary information, and causing improper payments. The third mode of scandal that is happening is the corruption. That means making or receiving improper payments, offering bribes, receiving bribes, kickbacks, aiding and abetting the fraud by others. So these are the basic types of scandals that are happening. So the financial frauds, misappropriation of assets, and corruption. These are the three things that are. Then why corporate frauds occur? If you think about why corporate frauds occur. So the first one is the greed. So majority of the corporate frauds, if you see, the origin is greed. So everybody wants to make a quick buck, and they want to make money, and they want to progress. Because when I interrogated Mr. Ramalinga Raju also, I asked him, sir, you had an excellent track record, and Satyam is regarded as one of the best corporates, what we have seen. And he said, I wanted to be number one. I wanted to be number one. So that is how the whole thing has happened. That is the result of it. Next is the lack of transparency. Many of the procedures or many of the processes what we adopt in the company, they lack transparency, and that leads to people who want to commit fraud, they can commit. So like the coal scam what we have seen, it is worth about 1 crore 86 lakh crores. That means lack of transparency, how you are allotting the coal mines and all, it is not known. So lack of transparency always leads to corruption or always leads to fraud, that we have seen. Then poor management information, and then excessively generous performance bonus payments. This is one thing what I have seen in the corporates. They want to give as much money to please the people. They want to give as much of bonus as possible. Once the commitment becomes difficult, then the management start indulging in fraud. Then non-independent internal audit department. So internal audit is, if you want to keep your house in order, you need to have a good internal audit department. But many of the scams, if you analyze, they do not have a non-independent internal audit. So only internal audit team is working. It is a dependent internal audit team. So whatever they find, this is brushed aside by the management. This is another reason of corporate fraud occurring. Then lack of clear moral direction from senior management. Even though the junior management, if they go and appear before the senior management and apprise them of something happening in the company, but the directions from the senior management are that forget about it and see that the company gets profit. So this is another reason why these corporate frauds are occurring. Then excessively complex organizational structure. This is another problem where if the structure is very simple, there is a lot of opportunity for the interaction between different departments. What I have seen in different corporates is you operate in different silos. The silo A don't know what silo B is doing, silo C is doing. So in the process, the organization structure is so complex, it becomes very difficult for an interaction among the silos, and wherein there is always a scope for the corporate frauds to. Then poor accounting controls. Then arrogance is another major factor. Arrogance is another thing. That means I can get away with anything, or I can do whatever I want. What we have seen with Vijay Malaya is one of the reasons is the arrogance. And finally is the complacency. That means nothing happens in my corporate. So everything is proper, and a lot of you don't mend your ways, or you don't change your accounting standards as per the new instructions and all. So the complacency is another thing which plays a major role in the corporate frauds. So if you analyze all the corporate frauds, all the corporate frauds fit into any one of these things, or few of these things, or all of these things. So as I think some CEOs are attending this corporate in this particular webinar, I request all of them to go through these issues and see what is happening in their corporate or in their company, so that in the days to come, all these things are rectified and there won't be any fraud that is coming. That's why this great man has already told us, there is a sufficiency in the world for man's need, but not for man's greed. So that's why I said the concept of spirituality, what we talk in this nation, if that is imbibed in the people, even among the top management and also of the people who are working in the organization, then such type of things will not happen. Now, another thing is who are responsible for this corporate fraud. So the thing is, the narcissist theory says executives with high level of self-confidence and narcissism are more likely to commit fraud to maintain a positive image. So they want to maintain a positive image, and also they have so much of self-confidence. In the process, what happens is there is a likelihood of committing fraud in this. And individuals commit fraud simply because they have the opportunity. Another thing is the opportunity. So the CEOs of the companies who are attending, they should see that where there is an opportunity in this particular organization to commit fraud. Whenever there is an opportunity, there is always a possibility of somebody committing fraud. So we need to plug in all these opportunity in our institution so that the chances of somebody committing fraud would be minimized. Then the narcissists thrive on affirmation and praise from others and behave unethically to keep from falling short of their goals. So if you keep unachievable goals, and if you keep unachievable goals, then you need to indulge in some sort of a fraud so that you can reach those goals. I mean, suppose if somebody wants to go to number one, even though their capacity is not there, then automatically you may have to fudge your accounts, or you may have to indulge in some malpractices to achieve that. So in the process, what happens is you will be committing a fraud. So people who are responsible are these people. And then opportunities for fraud, as I was mentioning in the earlier slide, you need to plug in what are the opportunities and where the opportunities for fraud exist. If you know this, that the first one, as I was mentioning, it is the overconfident managers. They often feel that they can outsmart any regulatory agency and keep illegal activity hidden. So suppose somebody is coming for audit. So suppose the audit suggests you something. They say that, no, nothing. I mean, we can, because of this, something has happened. They don't want to learn and they don't want to correct the mistake. So overconfident managers are one of the main reasons for the fraud. Then CEOs and CFOs often have little resistance when it comes to managing a corporation. Less resistance can lead to opportunities of financial fraud, like successfully report false information. That is what, when I tell you the case study about Satyam, I'll tell you where this has happened and how this has happened. Then upper management generally answers to a board of directors and stockholders, or the stakeholders, or the shareholders. Although the board of directors or stockholders can request to look at financial records at any time, as long as the company is earning money for its investor, most will not question the manager's methods. That's why if you attend the annual general body meetings of many of the corporates, they are arranged in 5-star hotels. I mean, very sumptuous lunch or brunch or high tea is arranged, and the balance sheets of the organization or the company are circulated, but nobody goes through them. Everybody is looking, most of the shareholders will be happy with the arrangements there, and also with the lunch or high tea. So in the process, the details will go missing. And in the process, what happens is nobody will stand up and ask the managers, because he is showing some results. Whether the results are results being shown are genuine or not, nobody questions. As long as you are complying or you are delivering what you have promised, nobody is going to this thing. This is also a dangerous thing that we need to look into. The less cohesion from the stockholders, are more likely the manager is to use the unethical strategy. If you don't have a good cohesion with your stockholders, and then what happens is whatever the management does, it goes. And also a manager is theorized and acting on the benefit of the stakeholders. So the manager will say that I am working for you and I am getting you the dividend or whatever it is. So these are the opportunities for fraud. So a genuine company.
Hi, the audio seems to be lost.
Is it okay? The audio is okay, Mr. Kalyan? Yeah.
Yes, sir. We are now we are able to.
Okay, no, yeah. So final factor is that on the head of the company, the whole this thing depends on the head of. It's like head of the house. If the house collapses, the head of the house is responsible. Similarly, when the company falls, or if a fraud is detected, ultimately the buck stops at the head of the company. He can't say that I don't have any control or I didn't know what's happening in the company. So heads of the companies or the CEOs, they have to be extremely careful, because a lot of people with a lot of intentions will be joining you. and lot of opportunities which are there, they will not be disclosing it to you, and without your knowledge also sometimes something may go wrong. So you need to be very, very cautious if you want to avoid such type of things happening in your institution. Then if you see the properties of corporate frauds, the main corporate frauds, if you analyze, first thing is the inability to meet performance expectations. So this quarter, you may have performed, you would have performed your improvement is say about 3%. So next quarter, you want to go for 5%, that is your target. But the moment you cannot meet the performance, then you start indulging in fraud. To see that the next quarter, you show in the books that you have achieved 5%. In the process, your share price may increase or more people can invest in your company. But you jolly well know that your company is not performing at 5%, but it is performing less than that. So that may lead to a corporate fraud. Then the second one is the personal cost, pecuniary or non-pecuniary, of failing to meet expectations. And finally, being able to convince oneself that real performance will improve soon. It's like a student going for the examination, and he comes out of the examinations, and after the examination he is given a mark report card. So he always looks at the report card, and what he does is he manipulates that. He forges that report card and shows it to his father. Father is very happy that my child is getting 85%. He got 85%. So the expectation of the father is that next examination he will make it to 95%. So the boy, why he has forged his mark list is that thinking that he will improve his performance in the next examination. But if he doesn't improve, then what he does is the next card also he is going to forge. This is what happens in many of the companies. So balance sheet by balance sheet, lot of accounting malpractices will take place, and ultimately when the thing goes beyond your control, then you come out and say that now I can't control. I can't, I don't know how to, I was riding a tiger, I don't know how actually to get down without getting eaten by the tiger. This is what is the popular, this thing we all have heard. So as the CEO of a company, you should know all these things. And also all the corporate frauds you should be able to go through and see that, apply it to your firm and see that such a thing doesn't happen in your organization. So these are the great financial scandals that have happened in the nation. Most of you know the Polypec of UK or the BCCI, MicroStrategy, Enron is one thing you all should read. Then the WorldCom, AIG, American International Group. Of course, if you see the meltdown in the year 2003, it's the Lehman Brothers and the Madoff. This is actually the Ponzi schemes or the subprime mortgage crisis that has led to the international meltdown. That is the 2008, we all know. But fortunately, India could brush through or scrape through because of the domestic saving habits of Indians. Then these are the other thing, Autonomy, Tesco, 1MDB, Malaysia, and these are various scandals that have happened. You can go to the net and you can see what is happening. Let us come to India. The first scam that has happened in the country is the Mundra scam. This has happened way back in 1957. Actually, about the question hour, because the parliament session is going on. You all know that the parliament session is going on, and people wanted, there was a lot of criticism that the question hour has been discontinued. So actually, this Mundra scam is the product of the question hour that has happened in the parliament. So one of the members raised and asked a question, and they said whether this LIC has invested a lot of money in the companies of Mr. Mundra, Haridas Mundra. Then that time the reply given was that yes, we have invested some money in the LIC. Then later on the finance minister came to the parliament and they asked, again the question was asked in the parliament saying that, have you brought the shares of Mundra by LIC at a higher price? The shares were available at 100 rupees, but you have purchased at 200 rupees. Then T.T. Krishnamachari, the then finance minister, said nothing like that has happened. Then there was a lot of halagulla in the parliament, and finally, under Justice Chagla, a committee has been appointed. Then Justice Chagla came to the conclusion that yes, lot of money has been invested in these Mundra companies, and there was a lot of defraudment that has happened. And this has led to the resignation of Mr. T. Krishnamachari, and also Haridas Mundra was found guilty and he was punished to undergo imprisonment for 22 years. So this is the first scam that has happened in the country, that is called the Mundra scam. Then there are so many legislations in the in Indian this thing which controls various activities. The first one is the Indian Penal Code. Just now Mr. Chandrasekhar has mentioned about various things: the Indian Contract Act, the Companies Act, Prevention of Corruption Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, about which he deliberated on that. Then Clause 49 of the Listing Agreement, and finally the CARO. So these are various legislations and the regulations which are controlling the company. So as CEO of the company, you all need to know all these legislations or a bit of it. So that knowledge is always power. That's what I always say. If you have knowledge, you will not be cheated by somebody. So the moment you say that you don't know these things, there are always people who are ready to utilize that opportunity and to commit a fraud or perpetrate a fraud. So if you see the financial scandals in India, so the Colgate scam I was mentioning, then the 2G spectrum, then Commonwealth Games, then Telgi stamp paper scam, Satyam scam, of course, it is 14,000, Nirav Modi's PNB bank fraud, Vijay Mallya banking scam, Harshad Mehta and Ketan Parekh share scam, you know, then Augusta Westland Chapper scam, Hawala, and finally, of course, the Bofer scam. So this is the amount involved, and this is what is the present status. This also you can go through. Maybe you can get a lot of information. There are a lot of books written on this, and also internet also carries a lot of information. So I said, let there be a triangle to see how frauds are happening. So it's a triangle of frauds. On one side, you have the opportunities. On one other side, you have a social acceptance. And on the other side, you feel that you will not get caught. So this is a triangle in which the frauds are getting committed. So as CEO of an organization, my humble request to all of you is that see where are the opportunities in your organization to commit fraud. So you have appropriate policy decisions and appropriate enforcement. Even the government also should concentrate on this. The other one is the social acceptance. Generally, nowadays, the people are telling everybody is doing it. What is so great about it? Everybody is indulging in fraud. So that social acceptance also has to reduce. You should raise up to the level, and you should set the bar. You should set the standard. Then freedom from risk is another thing. Suppose if an employee in your organization feels that even if I do something, I am not going to get caught, then he will keep indulging in, or he will perpetrate the fraud. So as CEO, you need to see what are the opportunities in your organization to commit fraud. And you have to see if somebody commits a fraud, there is always something is going to happen to him. This type of threat, if it is there in the organization, nobody will dare to commit a fraud in your organization. And also general social acceptance among the citizens also need to be reduced about these corrupt practices. If everybody accepts corruption, then the society will be in a great trouble. So that we all need to understand. So as a responsible citizen of the nation, it is our responsibility to see that the integrity levels of the organizations are maintained. And also people working in the organizations are afraid that if I do something wrong, I will be caught. The internal procedures itself are going to catch me. And also the management has to plug the opportunities to commit the fraud. So that's why I named it as the fraud triangle. So this triangle's area has to be minimized. It should become a minuscule. Then the prestige of the nation is going to improve, and in the process, the prestige of your organization also is going to improve. What the Supreme Court said about these frauds or the economic offenses we all talk about. There is a judgment given by the Supreme Court in this particular case. It says, the entire community is aggrieved if the economic offenders who ruin the economy of the state are not brought to book. A murder may be committed in the heat of the moment upon passions being aroused. An economic offense is committed with cool calculation and deliberate design with an eye on personal profit, regardless of the consequences to the community. A disregard for the interest of the community can be manifested only at the cost of forfeiting the trust and faith of the community in the system to administer justice in an even-handed manner without fear of criticism from the quarters which view white-collar crimes with a permissive eye, unmindful of the damage done to the national economy and national interest. So white-collar crimes and white-collar criminals are very, very dangerous for the nation. So this everybody should know. That's what the Supreme Court said. Suppose murders are committed, as they said, in the when passions are aroused, then certain type of a murder may be committed. But these scams or these frauds are calculated in AC rooms, air-conditioned rooms, with a lot of intelligent minds coming together, and they are perpetrating. So it is our duty as an individual or as an organization or as a nation to see these white-collar crimes are controlled or they are minimized. This is a responsibility. It is a fundamental duty of all of us. Can I go to Satyam case, Mr. Kalyan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's all very interesting. So it's all yours.
Yeah. Yes. Right. So, because whatever little experience I had, because I was heading the multidisciplinary scheme which probed into the Satyam scam, and the CBI was given this responsibility. So we had an opportunity to go through this particular scam. I thought I'll explain it to you, because many of the people, they do not know what exactly has happened. So I thought in few slides I'll be able to present this to you. I'll try to do that. Yeah. About Satyam, you all know. This is what Satyam is. Incorporated with 53,000 employees, one of the Fortune 185 Fortune 500 companies were their customers. They were operating in 66 countries and won Golden Peacock for corporate governance, and so many this thing. It got listed in the New York Stock Exchange also, along with the National Stock Exchange. Then, what is their line of business? They were operating in 5 sectors: banking, financial services, manufacturing, telecom, health and pharmaceuticals, retail, transportation, and others. These are the 5 areas in which Satyam was working. I mean, the typical business model of any company, any IT company is, say, they raise the business through the purchase orders, the orders are taken up, and customers are charged through the invoices. I mean, I always say, suppose Air India gives a business to Satyam, say 100 crores of business to Satyam to say to develop a system for Air India. So it places 100 crores as the purchase order. Then these orders are taken up. Then they start discharging their duties, and they start developing the platform that is required for Air India, and they keep raising the invoices, and Air India keeps paying them money. This is what is a simple business model. So you have a purchase order, then you take up the order, you execute the order in phases, and in phases you receive the money through invoices. This is a simple business what Satyam was doing. This was the published performance of Satyam. If you see, in the year 1999-2000, the net profit after tax was about 42 crores, and it went on increasing. In the year 2007-8, it is 17-15. So that is the published performance. This is what is the performance that is shown in the books. That is shown in the books. Just give me a minute, because it's raining here. I'll just close the curtain so that the disturbance won't be there, Mr. Kalyan. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah. So this is the published performance. Now, people started investing in Satyam because it had one of the best business model. It had the best people as the board of directors. If you read those names, that is sufficient for you. Then the value of the company and the growth was very close to Infosys and TCS and Wipro. And then they were adopting both the Indian GAAP and also US GAAP, General Audit and Account Practicing. They used to have both Indian GAAP as well as the US GAAP. And the street expectations. Every quarter, what Mr. Ramalinga Raju used to promise, he used to pay the shareholders. So people were very, very happy. Then they had the best of the auditors. Pricewaterhouse was the auditors for them. So when all these 6 things or 7 things, what I have shown on the screen, if they are satisfied, people were very happy and they started investing their hard money in this company. Actual performance of Satyam, what was happening vis-a-vis other IT majors, if you see, during those years, IT majors were performing at 25% to 30%. That means every quarter their business was increasing at the rate of 25 to 30%. But if you see the actual performance of Satyam, it was growing only at 15%. So, in order to overcome this, other companies were raising at 25% to 30%. Their performance was only 15%. So, in order to see that this shortfall has been managed, they started inflating their sales and they started fudging their balance sheets. As I gave you an example, Air India gave them 100 crore worth of purchase order. So actually in the books of account, what Satyam started showing is, they started showing that Air India has given them a project worth 200 crores. So in the process, what happened is they have inflated their revenues. They inflated their revenues and the balance sheet started looking good, and they were also playing very close to the other major companies like 25% to 35%. So people started thinking that Satyam is growing at much faster rate compared to the other IT majors, and they started again investing in the company. So this is what is the whole thing has happened. Now, what is the objective? As I mentioned, the objective was to inflate the revenue, and then inflated results published in the books of account made their share prices to actually artificially jacked. And when the share prices were increasing, then the promoters started offloading their shares. When people were investing in the company, promoters started slowly offloading the shares and they started getting this money. And this money, whatever they got, they started diversion and they started misappropriating the funds. So these are the objectives of the fraud, how they achieve. So far, so good. Now, what is the modus operandi? The modus operandi is very simple. I'll tell you in simple words. First one, as I mentioned, the inflation of the revenue by generating false invoices. I mean, I go back to the same because some people may not be having the accounting knowledge. Whatever little knowledge I picked up during the investigation, I'll try to make it simple. That means, again, I'll take the Air India example only. So Air India has given them 100 crores of business or the purchase order. Then actually they inflated their revenue to 200 crores. 100 crores is the actual purchase order, but they have shown it as 200 crores. So Air India actually was parting with only 100 crores, but this company is showing that they have raised invoices worth 200 crores. So that means 100 crores worth of genuine invoices, another 100 crores of false invoices. So, with this genuine invoices and false invoices, the total revenue became 200 crores. So actual revenue is only 100, but the remaining 100 is fictitious business or inflated revenue, and that they could create through false invoices. Now, okay. So you are showing that 200 crores has come from Air India to Satyam's accounts, but actually only 100 crore came because the other 100 was not existing. Then how to show it in my bank statement? Because the bank statement is going to show only 100 crores because that is the agreement or the purchase order. So the remaining 100 crores, they have inserted into the bank statement by forging the bank statements. Now, that means in the bank, you are showing as if 200 crores has come from Air India. Now, the auditors are going to ask you, or the finance team is going to ask you, where you have kept this money. So you got 200 crores. Out of that, some expenses have gone for the employees and other things. So remaining money, where you have kept. So the reply given by the management was that they have deposited in a fixed deposit. Bank will give you if you deposit actual money. But here there is no money. Only 100 crores has come from Air India, but you are showing fixed deposits of 200 crores. Out of that, 100 crores is genuine. Remain 100 crores, the bank is not going to give you FDRs. So how to show? Then what they did is they started forging the fixed deposit receipts also. So inflation of the revenue by creating false invoices, forging your bank statement to show the balance amount, and that balance amount having shown as come into your accounts to show where it is parked, they started forging the fixed deposit receipts, although they are called FDRs. So this is the modus operandi. Once you understand the modus operandi, then my investigation is, next slides I will show what the investigation is about. Are you with me, Mr. Kalyan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everybody is curious and we are listening. We are interested.
Yeah. So this is the modus operandi. Once you understand the modus operandi, first one is raising false invoices. Second one is forging the bank statements. Third one is generation of forged fixed deposits. Now, how false invoice can be generated? If you see, this is the system in which this thing comes. So this is the software that has been put in Satyam company to generate an invoice. So that means here, suppose say 10 people are allotted for Air India project. So these 10 people, they get into this system and this is the approval they got. And these 10 people from this software, they have come to this Optima software. Then these 10 people are going to work on this project. So they submit their time charts. That means today I have worked for 6 hours. I am a senior manager. So per hour I am given 10,000 rupees. So 60,000 is my invoice for today. Like this, those things are generated and this partial billing management system is generated and it goes to the invoice management system and finally the invoice is raised. So say for the month of September, Satyam has put in efforts worth about 2 crores. So this 2 crores invoice is to be sent to Air India. Now, but actually my intention is that along with 2 crores, I have to put 2 more crores of false invoices I have to generate. I have to generate false invoice. So what they did is they created a portal called Excel porting. That means this is the genuine way of generating an invoice. This is a surreptitious way of generating an invoice. So from this regular, they generated 2 crores of invoice for that month. And from Excel porting, they created another fictitious 2 crores of invoice. So finally, they created 4 crores of invoice for the.
I request everybody to kindly bear with sir. Just 2 minutes. He's reconnecting. There's a power cut at his house. Okay. By the time sir connects, okay, I'll move on with the next topic. We'll just once Lakshmanan sir reconnects, we'll continue with that topic. By then, I'll share with you the continued presentation. Since we're falling short of time, I'll speak about the topic that I am supposed to, that is the reasons for corporates paying heavy prices. So a few of the reasons are linked, okay, to the internal factors, and I'll be discussing about the external factors. If you have made a note when Lakshmanan sir was addressing, he hinted that Satyam had the best. Satyam had the best tax consultants. Sir, okay, you can continue, sir. You can continue. I thought
Yeah, I'll just do that again. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So then let me do this thing also. Again, I have to connect that. My presentation will be seen, or again I have to connect?
Just a moment. Let me see if it is. I think you have to connect again, sir.
I have to connect again. Okay. Is it okay, Mr. Kalyan?
Yes, sir. We are. Yes, we are able to.
Yeah. Sorry, because there is a heavy downpour here, and I don't know how far this is going to go. But let me try. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I was mentioning that, again, I come back to the example of this thing only. So 100 crores of genuine invoices have been generated through this system, and 100 of fictitious this thing have been created by creating a system called Excel porter and by creating a data loader. So this data loader keeps on loading the fictitious invoices so that when it comes to the books, it shows 100 crores of genuine invoices and also 100 crores of fictitious invoices. This is how they created. Now, you may ask me a question. Sir, always, because in Satyam, on each project, there used to be a finance guy who keeps watching these invoices. Because the moment he sees some fictitious invoices are being generated, there is a chance of being caught. So that's why they have devised another system to hide these fictitious invoices. They have created a system for creating fake invoices, and they have created another system to see that these fake invoices are hidden from the view of the finance guy. So, because he will be seeing only 100 crores of genuine invoices, but the books of accounts will be having 100 crores plus 100 crores. So 200 will be reflected in the books of accounts, but only the finance guy will be seeing only. How they did this? If you see, they have created a system called super user. The moment a fictitious or a false invoice enters, this system asks, do you want to hide this invoice? The moment you press yes, it says successfully completed the task. That means in the system, you are creating a fake invoice and you are hiding it from the view of the finance guy. So this is another thing what they did. Now, if you see the finance guy, how he looks the invoice. Suppose by mistake, if a fake invoice has been generated, and if you see, actually, this is how a fake invoice looks like. This is the bill number, this is the invoice number, this is the invoice date, all details. It is for $900 US. The moment you use the super user and you hide it, nothing will be seen here. Nothing will be seen here. So this is the modus operandi through which they generated so many fake invoices along with the genuine invoices. So that has increased the revenue of the company. So that the Kalyan, are you with me?
Yes, sir. You are audible and we're able to see you. Your presentation is also there.
So the company started producing so many fake invoices, and this is how. Now the next, I'll like this. 7,561 forged or false invoices were identified, amounting to 5,117 crores. So these 7,561 were hidden in the system from being viewed by the business units, what I have mentioned. Now, these are the details of the fake invoices. So these are the number of fake invoices generated, and this is the amount inflated in their books. If you see the year 2007-2008, 3,104 fake invoices were generated worth about 1,734 crores. That means in the books of Satyam, 1,734 amount is actually shown in it is a fudging. It is a hiking of the this thing, or it is inflation of their income. So this is the first thing what has happened in Satyam, because this particular statement is very important. 1,734 crores of rupees has been shown in their books of accounts. Now, I'll take you to their performance. The earlier books, what they have shown, I have published performance. So in the year 2007 and 8, they have shown a net profit after tax is 1,715 rupees. But actually, the fake amount what they have shown in their books is 1,734. Actually, they were running in loss in 2007 and 8. They have shown their profit as 1,715, and fake amount which they have shown in their books is 1,734. Actually, the company was running under loss. And it is in this year they got the best company for corporate governance in the year 2007 and 8. So, Now, once you have understood, the first one is generation of the fake invoices. And the second one is the forgery of the bank statement, what I was mentioning. So what they did is every month banks used to send their original statements to Satyam company. Then they took those original statements and in their systems, they prepared a duplicate bank statement and they incorporated all these fake invoice details in their bank statements. So that is how the bank statements have been forged. Now, once, as I mentioned, generation of fake invoices. Second one is the forgery of the bank statements. And the third stage is forgery of fixed deposit receipts. Whatever the extra amount they have started projecting, they were showing as if it was deposited in the fixed deposit. So they have adopted a very crude method of preparing fake FDRs. What they did is, they took the template of all the bank's fake accounts or the FDRs, they scanned it. They scanned it, and whenever required, they started generating the fake FDRs. So forgery of fixed deposits. So generation of fake invoices to inflate the books. Second one is to show these fake invoices, they started forging the bank statements. The additional amount what they were showing as if they have deposited in the bank, but they did not deposit. They created their own fixed deposit receipts. You may ask me a question. Sir, the bank paper, the paper of the bank or the paper what they use for generating these FDRs is different. It's a different paper altogether. So actually, if you, Mr. Kalyan, are you with me? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually, if you sense the paper, that's why if you go to bank, the cashiers will be counting the cash. The moment a fake note is seen, they pull it out from the bunch because they can feel the touch of the paper. In the similar way, the bankers or the auditors also can feel the touch of the paper and they can say whether it is genuine FDR or fake FDR. So what they did, they laminated all the FDRs. So all these fake and genuine FDRs have been laminated so that you can't feel the paper, quality of paper. So this is how they manage these FDRs. Now, what I am showing you on the screen is a letter written to General Manager HDFC Bank. What they are saying, as discussed and negotiated with you, we have remitted 20 million US dollars, equivalent of rupees 8 crores to your branch on value dated 12th December. We request you to kindly place the above funds in rupee deposits as per the following thing. So this letter is also generated. It's a fake letter. They have shown as if they have written to the general manager of HDFC Bank asking them to put it in FDR, because when there is no money, there is no question of FDR being generated. So this letter is also a fake letter which they have created. Similar to BNP Paribas also they have created similar letter. Then, because maybe most of you may be knowing the auditing procedure. Generally, the auditors are supposed to write to the bank whether the deposit shown by the company are actually existing in the bank account or not. Then the bank confirms. So bank confirmation letters are very, very important. So what they did, I'll tell you. So the Pricewaterhouse is the auditor. So the Pricewaterhouse auditor receives a letter of confirmation of balance as on 30th June 2008. We hereby confirm that as on 30th June, an amount of 4 crores is in, 46 crores is in the fixed deposit account and 4 crores is the interest accrued thereon in the name of Satyam Computer Services. You feel that this is a genuine letter. This is also a forged letter. BNP Paribas has not issued this letter. This letter has been manufactured in the Satyam Computers company. So if you see, these are the various things. This is another confirmation letter of fixed deposit from the Citibank. So the balance sheet fudging, if you see, showing non-existent deposits, showing non-existent cash balances, showing non-existent interest on fixed deposits. If you see, this is the fixed deposits position. If you see again, we'll go to the year 2007-8. What they have shown in balance sheet as fixed deposits is 3,317 crores. But actual fixed deposits with the banks, they were only 9 crores 36 lakhs. So the difference of 3,308 crores of fixed deposit FDRs have been forged. Similar is the case with current account balances also. If you see 2007-8, what they have shown in the balance sheet is 956.29 crores. what was the actual current account balance is only 126 crores. So 829.34 crores of current balance, they are also for same thing is the interest. So this is how the whole corporate fraud has happened in the company. But from outside, we are seeing, yes, Satyam is doing extremely well. Satyam, they are.
I think sir will reconnect. Yes, by the time sir reconnects, I'll just take you through the next topic. Sir has explained the internal factors, the reasons for corporates paying heavy prices, the internal factors. So this is something linked to it. This is external factors. If you have noticed in sir's presentation, he was more speaking about the advisory firms or its consultants who are taking care of the accounts or audits and so-called corporate governance. One of the points I have, for the reasons for corporates paying heavy prices as external factors is that corporates falling for gold standard consulting services and experiencing clouds in the horizon. So what I mean to say here is, see, every corporate scandal in India has proven to have the best consultants providing the services to them. It's not the names or the brands that matter, but the expertise that can assure micro-level control. So if Satyam was able to do such fraud, that means it was all intentional. And when corporate governance gave a clean sheet, that means they were also colluded. So here I'd like to say corporates have to take care of, be very, you can say have qualitative efforts in finding out who are the consultants, what kind of services they provide. Okay, something related to this point is the corporates being unable to audit the auditor or check over or under auditing. So here, when I say audit, it doesn't necessarily mean the tax audit. I mean here any audit that's under the ambit of tax, legal, statutory, compliance, etc. Okay. Now, do you know who your auditor is? What is the standard they have? Do you have any measures where you can audit the auditor? The next point is adopting nil or outdated risk audit procedures. Mr. Lakshminarayan sir said, corporate should have non-independent internal audit departments, non-independent. Now, in case of Satyam, they already have the risk audit procedures, but still nothing could prevent the risk. So that means it is all a compromised risk audit that they have done. So majority corporates, they don't get in or they don't deal with this risk audit procedures. They don't avail any third-party audited third-party risk audits. So my point here is adopting necessary or effective risk audit procedures can help the corporates. Next, availing corporate advisory aiming at profits but not reduced risks. So this is another classic example. The Satyam's case. They did avail corporate advisory from the top firms. In this case, I'll just have to take a call, Lakshminarayan sir. Just a moment, please. Sir is trying to reconnect. We'll have him shortly. So as I was trying to explain, availing corporate advisories aiming at profits but not reduced risks. So you don't have to have the best or gold standard consulting service providers. Anybody somewhere near to your office or somebody accessible to you, but who can do the job for you. Have you ever checked as how many times do your consultants visit your office or understand the risk factors and advice? Okay. Now, the next point that's relating to the external factors is that corporates have nil or weak supply chain compliance checks and audits. Okay. So now this is where the contracts with third parties might not do all the job for your company. So you'll have to check if they're in compliance with the standards and policies of your company. Okay. So you might have to extend your risk audits to your supply chain, your vendors, and your suppliers as well. The next one is not engaging third-party troubleshooters and dispute resolvers to assist any company. Okay, so only very big corporates, they do engage troubleshooters and dispute resolvers, but most of the companies, they either depend, they go visit their chartered accountants or their lawyers, to have this troubleshooter. But if there is a troubleshooter, somebody in the capacity of a risk advisor or something like that, who can understand the risk elements thoroughly for the entire year or whatever the period they're delivering the service, then it becomes easy for them to troubleshoot and resolve the disputes. The next point is not engaging pre or post litigation dispute resolution planners. Now, what's commonly seen is if there is a legal issue or any statutory compliance issue, so what happens is the corporates, after the discussion in the the board of directors meeting, okay, they engage a particular senior advocate or an advocate before the courts, or they appoint their respective chartered accountants, internal or external, and they try to do the aftermath. I mean, they try to get it resolved post the problem has occurred. So to prevent the problem, better engage some dispute resolution planners, who can diagnose at a pre-litigation stage itself and do the job. Okay, so moving on to the next point, that's excessive dependency on legal and tax professionals. One of the key points Mr. Lakshminarayan said is that if you have no knowledge about the legalities, it could be CEOs or the top management, then you're definitely in problem. So before you consult your legal and tax professionals, you do your homework. Okay, you be at least try to get 5 to 10% of knowledge on the legalities related to your company, and post which approach your legal and tax professionals. And finally, excess or abuse by authorities. Okay, in case you got into a problem, and then that's when the authorities come in. It could be CBI, it could be Enforcement Directorate, or it could be the Serious Fraud Investigation Office, or the income tax people. So in most cases, we have seen that there's excess or abuse by these authorities. However, the scope is established only because of the mistakes by the corporates. So if you don't give the chance, if a corporate doesn't give the chance, then there's no chance of this excess or abuse. And say, for example, a case like Satyam, okay, it could have been misused by many authorities, but since it was a very open scam, there was fair investigation, and the results were out pretty soon. But in most corporates, there is a definite excess or abuse seen by these authorities. They try to take the corporates for a ride. So these are the external factors we'd like to hint. Okay, apart from the internal factors, what Mr. Lakshminarayan sir was telling. Okay. So that's about the external factors. We'll just wait for maybe a minute or two, else I'll just call him once again. He's trying hard to reconnect. I think there's severe rain there, and he's unable to connect for that reason. Once he reconnects, we'll then go with the next topic. That is the need for corporate scandal proofing. So sir is trying to connect from his mobile. I think I think in 1 minute or so he'll be here. And I think I've attended many webinars despite this disruption or whatever the hamperings we are facing. We still see all the audience just stuck to the screens. That only goes to show that the seriousness of the topic and the interest level all the panel speakers have created, and their expertise definitely matters. When Chandrasekhar sir started speaking, maybe since the topic is pretty new to people, okay, they thought maybe this is out of the scope or whatever. And very soon, when Chandrasekhar sir started explaining about the all legalities related to money laundering, that is when the topic started getting interested. And now Lakshmi Narayan sir, being one of the top top cops, we can say, in our regular language, or he's known for his investigations, be it Satyam, be it the mining scam. Okay. And he's done an excellent job for the country, and we thought an experience, some words from a person of his experience, it'll add a lot of value to corporate houses, companies, and professionals related to law or tax. Since end of the day, what matters is the growth of the country, and corporates play a major role in the growth of the country. So I think sir is trying to reconnect. We'll just restart, and the next topic we'll be proceeding is the need for corporate scandal proofing. As I've already told you, this is the part 1 of the webinar series. Part 2 will be held next Friday. I'll get back to you with all the communications, all necessary information, the timings, and the topics. Okay, I think we'll have even better session. Okay, and let's wait for Lakshmi Narayan sir. Just a minute, please. Chandrasekhar sir, would you like to add any points, sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible. Yes, sir.
It is only a caution to all CEOs of the company and all accounts officers of a company, and those who are dealing with the financial affairs of the company must be careful in receiving any funds from the persons who have the background of tainted money being possessed by them. If they are not careful in handling the public money, that is, which is tainted, a crime money, then they are not only losing the investment made, but the amount that they have invested in a company will also be part of the proceedings, and eventually they lose that property also, because you cannot distinguish between a crime money and your own money. The property that is acquired or the business venture that you have made contains the tainted money. Therefore, one has to be very careful. Now the present government has very firm in handling this crime money being circulated in the system. They are very much interested in to see that the crime money is detected and the culprits are brought to books and they are prosecuted, and the property that has been acquired or possessed by these persons will be confiscated to the government, and it will vest in the government as provided under Section 8 of the Act. And you will be the loser of not only the others' money, and your money will also be lost. In addition to that, you will have to go to jail for a period of 6 years to 10 years. Therefore, now you will have to be very careful. Even if there is any element of a crime money in your project, try to analyze the entire investment and see that you disassociate with people having a crime money in your project. I think Mr. Lakshmi Narayan has come.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Sir Lakshmi Narayan, sir, it is over to you, sir. Your topic on need for corporate scandal proofing. Sir, you're on mute. You're on mute, sir. You have to unmute your speaker.
Yeah. I'm extremely sorry, Mr. Kalyan and Chandrasekhar, sir.
No problem.
There is a heavy downpour here, and here the connection has lost, and finally
we would have waited for another half an hour as well. Had it required.
Yeah. So sir has completed, Chandrasekhar, sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll try to wind it up, Kalyanji, maybe in a few minutes. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I have talked up to how the corporate frauds can take place, and Satyam is one of the examples, wherein lot of ingredients of fraud have been perpetrated there. So, I mean, this thing to all the CEOs is that you need to have checks and balances. If such things, we don't know, maybe happening somewhere in your organization also. And also a lot of changes in the accounting process also is being as brought out. After Satyam, if you see, they have always recommended external internal auditing system. Earlier, it used to be your own auditors who used to audit your internal accounts. After this Satyam fiasco, in fact, I made a presentation to then Finance Minister, the President of India, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee also, about what changes have to be brought in the Companies Act. So the system of external internal auditor has been introduced. And also the board of independent directors also, they kept on rotating. And the percentage, I think 50% have been made independent directors. These are some of the changes which have been brought. So if you see, as I mentioned, greed is the thing which makes a person to commit a fraud. So when I asked Sri Ramalinga Raju Garu also about it, he said he wanted to be number one. So there is always a way to reach number one. I mean, these type of shortcuts will always leads to you to somewhere else. So the whole brand has lost, and he lost because the amount of contribution he has made to the IT sector in Andhra Pradesh and India is also phenomenal. But a small, little portion of greed that has brought the whole thing to such a fiasco. So in corporate frauds, what we need to understand is that you need to study all the systems, and you need to find out where are the points of corruption, or where are the places of corruption, or where there is a chance of committing a fraud. So these things have to be blocked. These things have to be blocked, and a regular internal mechanism needs to be followed, and the instructions from the top should be, I mean, let the company go in losses, but we should not do something hanky-panky, or we should not deviate from the procedures. So these type of instructions from the top will always make the other people alert, and they will not try to indulge in such type of frauds. That we need to understand. And also, if you see, when people were investing in Satyam was, the promoters were actually offloading their shares. Because initially their share was 20% of the whole stock holding. By the time this whole thing was happening, it has dropped from 20% to 2%. So much of amount they have removed from the this thing, and they have indulged, or they have purchased land. So that has been converted into the real estate business. That is how the whole thing has happened. That's why 2 companies have been started in the name of Mitas. Mitas Infra and Mitas other company. These 2 companies are the subsidiaries. So actually they wanted to do the merging of Mitas with Satyam. Satyam wanted to merge with Mitas and the Mitas 2 companies, Mitas Infra and I think Mitas another company. So, but actually the foreign institutional investors have said, yours is an IT company. The 2 companies with which you want to merge, they are in the real estate business. So there is no synergy between these 2 companies. Actually, the plan was to see that if the merger take place, Mitas companies were having real estate properties and other infrastructure worth about 5,000 crores. And Satyam was having a big hole of 5,000 crores in the balance sheet. If you merge these 2 companies, that will get compensated. Then they would have continued by taking loans or something from the market. But FII said, there is no synergy, and if you do that, we'll walk out from the company. So that this thing was aborted. Had Mitas and Satyam's merger had taken place, probably somebody else would have been giving the lecture today, not me. Yeah. So that did not happen on that day. So finally, Mr. Ramalinga Raju had to confess that he was riding a tiger without knowing how to get down and without being eaten by it. So that is what is the confessional statement made. And subsequently, the case was taken up by the Andhra Pradesh CID, and then it was handed over to the CBI. So, as investigators, because I studied balance sheets only when I was a student of engineering in the 3rd year. That was the only exposure of mine to the balance sheets. Now, a heap of balance sheets were put before me to study. So it would have taken years for me to understand what exactly has happened. So what we did is we formed a multidisciplinary investigation team. We actually roped in from some chartered accountants. We roped in some cost accountants. We roped in some bankers. So like this, we formed a multidisciplinary investigation team. So that's why from this, what you need to understand is that whenever in your company also, you need to have a multidisciplinary teams having people with various backgrounds so that they will give the inputs from different angles and you can understand the things pretty well. So with this multidisciplinary investigation team, we could complete the investigations in 42 days and we could present the charge sheet to the court. Had I insisted that only, no, I should understand and I should complete, I should investigate, or my IO should understand accountancy, it would have taken another 3-4 years to complete the investigation. So this multidisciplinary thing is a big lesson for all the investigators in the country. So after this Satyam, in all the district headquarters or in the police department, some chartered accountants are put in the panel. So whenever there is a economic crime or a corporate fraud that is committed, these people will rope in or they will step in and they will study and they will help the police organization the actual reality. So from this, I request all of you to have a multidisciplinary teams so that the things can be understood much better and also you can have a real impact. So I thought
I think there's a power cut from Sir's side once again. So the need for corporate scandal proofing services or solutions, in short. Yes, sir, you are audible just in case.
I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So this is what is the big learnings from this investigation. And also my request to all of you is that kindly analyze all your processes in your company and also you analyze the persons also. Always persons make a lot of difference. The machines do not make mistakes, but the persons behind the machines are the brains which make the machines to do in a different manner. So you have to check if there are the points of corruption and places of corruption and persons of corruption. This is very, very important. Because what happens is, a corporate fraud will see that the reputation of the nation is in stake. So after Satyam, what people started asking is that they were not believing balance sheets produced by the companies. They were asking the balance sheets to be registered in the registrar and then only submit. So suppose a company with 300 crores of business, if they want to register, the amount of stamp duty they have to pay to the registration department, you know how much it is. So don't think it is happening within your company, it is happening with the nation also. So the reputation of the nation has to be protected and preserved. It is the responsibility of one and all. So my request to all of you is that don't think that it is your personal concern or your company. It is the company of the nation. It is the institution of the nation. So the topmost integrity levels have to be maintained. Maybe you may be getting less profit or you may be taking some more time to reach #1 position, but when you operate in a limited manner and also operate as per the procedures, you will also get a sound sleep and also the nation will be feel proud that this particular establishment doing extremely well. So this is what I thought I'll make a small presentation. I have talked about what are the causes and what are the properties, what type of persons generally indulge in fraud, and what are different types of fraud that have happened in the country and also in India, and also how Mundra scam has started.
Okay, to summarize what Sir was trying to state, So I was trying to state that every corporate should have multidisciplinary investigation teams. So that's what our topic is on the Friday, that is on 25th of this month. We'll be addressing the continuation of this topic, that is the solutions of the corporate scandal proofing solutions. In other words, we can say it is the multidisciplinary investigations or intelligence services. So we'll be discussing more on this topic on the 25th, that is the next Friday of this month. Okay, so to summarize the entire event or the entire webinar of today is that the corporates have to be cautioned, have to be careful about the errors or the mistakes at various levels, have risk audit mechanisms, investigation mechanisms, intelligence mechanisms, and get derived results, and post which you investigate. After the investigation, you plan for dispute resolutions and so on. So this particular solution, whatever I'm trying to state, so this is covered in the following week. So we'll be shooting out the necessary emails or WhatsApp communications. We'd request everybody to join us the next week. For now, if you have any questions, since we are already delayed by 15 minutes, okay, ahead of the schedule. So what you can do is, if you have anything specific, you please, you can make your question now. You can shoot your question now. I'll try to answer it immediately. If it is specific to me, or if it is to Lakshminarayan sir or Chandrasekhar sir, I'll make a note of it and I'll have it communicated to you.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Sunil.
Hi, my name is Bharat Singh, and I have one small question about the corporate scandal like Asian Paint. Asian Paint is one of the biggest paint company, and they are running they are flipping their share. 10 years back, they have invested in one small company, and then in small companies buying, selling shares, and making all the time high the Asian Paint. It never come down.
Okay.
So the question is that that company started with 20 lakh flipping share, and now it becomes 6,400 crores flipping shares.
Okay.
So what is the solution of these kind of behind a corporate investors?
See, either we'll have to find a whistleblower, or if there's somebody interested, we'll have to do a corporate governance check. Okay. And maybe we'll have to induce a third-party intelligence or investigation method and find out what is the actual mechanism that they have deployed, and then wait for the result. Based on the result, we'll have to arrive on a conclusion or an action plan.
Okay. So till now, no solution for this problem.
Yeah, since whatever you're telling, it's on a public interest level. So if I was Asian Paints, what I would do is, or the other company, okay, so first we have to understand, is it a deliberate attempt, or is it by way of negligence, or is it really factful, or you can say, is that a fair way what they are doing? We're not sure. So first the intelligence has to be done, investigations have to be done. In this case, since it is on a public interest level, okay, third-party investigations or third-party checks have to be done. Since they wouldn't allow anybody, we'll have to depend on open sources, open information, maybe through the Right to Information Act or things like that. To be very specific, to answer very specifically to your question, since it is public interest, the scope is limited. So we don't want to investigate and try to try to devaluate the company, or maybe give a police complaint, or report it to the ED. Our idea is to prevent the damage. So what I would say is, since we are not concerned with the Asian Paints, it could be investments or whatever, I would only say preventive measures. If there is a way that we can write to the board of directors or the shareholders, we can take that to them. ask them to see if all these are genuinely done, or if they are aware of whatever the procedures that they are doing. Okay, and wait for a reply. That is something that can be done.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question, please?
Mr. Kalyan.
Yes, please.
We as startups, when do we need? I mean, I am a startup for last about 1.5 years. I've only been interacting with my CA, or I've only been interacting with my CS when it comes to filing the quarterly or annual statements and things like that. But when is that a company like mine should find the need of deploying services of say corporate scandal proofing and things like that?
So you don't have to wait for you to become. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting or I'm too early to answer. Just in case.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't have to wait to be a very big corporate. So you never know. You might get a funding of 100 crores or 200 crores or 5 or 10 crores in the next day or the next week or next month. So we would, what we would suggest is you plan things in such a way that you have control of all the risk factors. You know what compliances are, how to track all these compliances, how to employ the multidisciplinary investigators or professionals or chartered accountants. Okay, so Indian corporate systems, they're nowhere. They're slowly trying to employ those professionals who have this multidisciplinary professional skills. So, for example, a CACS, okay, or a CSLLB, okay, people like this. So, what you can do is you better have a consulting, a corporate advisory, or a scandal proofing, or a risk-free solution that you can develop, or with the assistance of other companies. Okay, so since you are a startup, better be aware of what are the compliances and statutories that are required. Okay, learn on your own, and later on, start implementing, be on the correct platform. Once you are big, it becomes easy for you. You can track everything at a very micro level as well.
Right. I mean, that was an acceptable answer as considering you to be a scandal proofing expert, etc. But as a startup owner, how will I justify that cost against what I can? That
is what I said. See, you try to implement it on your own, or try to look out for solutions from professionals who can provide it at a lesser cost. Okay. So you don't have to literally worry about the corporate scandal level. Okay, you can say some risk preventive mechanisms. So look out for some companies which offer risk audit services, risk assessment services at a lower cost. So to begin with, that is enough. So
thank you, sir.
Did I answer? Okay. We have Lakshminarayan, sir. If you have anybody has any
I think let us get into question answer mode. I believe. I mean, somehow this today I thought I could present something to the people. I mean, things would have been more interesting. I don't know.
Sir, we have one more week. Then the following week.
Yeah.
I'll after this webinar, I'll connect with you once again, sir. We'll reschedule. So we'll extend this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is my commitment. I'll definitely come next.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So
if there are any questions, I can answer. Yeah.
Sir, I have a question. This is Lokesh from Luxan Technologies.
Yes,
am I audible, sir?
Lokesh. Yeah.
Yes, sir. A question to Lakshminarayan, sir. Sir, in experience, is there any way we can identify the genuine documents versus edited or forged documents? So because if I look at the negative angle, right, my mind or everything will go on the negative side. We cannot focus on something positive.
Yeah.
It all depends on the mutual, kind of understanding or the belief of a person, right? Always, if you look at negative, the things will go in the negative direction. Is there any way, is there any tool or any suggestion from your end which we can quickly look into that?
Actually, you should become an investigator, because investigator always doubts everything. Yeah. Unless it is found that it is genuine, still we keep on questioning the documents. But actually, there are many ways in which you can check the genuinity of a document. I mean, writing to the person who has generated that document. Suppose if he has brought from some particular company, or maybe from particular bank, or this thing. There are good document readers also. There are a few people who specialize in this aspect also. I mean, they can be consulted. This forensic, these private forensic labs are also available in the market. Truth Labs is one of the things which is available in the market. They actually charge you, but they will do this due diligence done also. So that is another way of looking at things, so that you can get the genuinity of the documents. It's like if you want to buy a property also, you engage an advocate so that he does some 40 years check, and then he will say whether the documents are genuine or not. So this type of background checking needs to be done. There are professionals who are available. Yeah, that can be done, Mr. Lokesh. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, we're in a process of identifying the fake images and videos using the AI technologies. That's where I was interested, to know about documents.
Yeah, now with the social media and this technology, it is very easy to morph the things and you can produce the thing. There is a big setback for most of the people. I mean, sometimes the forged ones look better than the genuine ones. If you see the fake notes also, forged currency also, sometimes they look much better than the genuine currency. So it has become very, very difficult because the scanners, the quality of printers have, the type of machinery what we have and the technology what we have, it becomes very difficult. It's really a genuine difficulty what Mr. Lokesh has said. So we have professionals who can help you in doing the things also. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, please? Any other questions, please?
So, I mean, this question, I don't know whether you will take or Lakshmi Narayan sir will take. Do you people, based on whatever we went through in the webinar today, you need to say that there is a need for having the legal expert also on panel, right from the beginning, like you have a CA and CS and your accountants and bank partners, etc.
Yeah, because Mr. Vijay, as I was mentioning, it is better to have inputs from different people. Always this, I mean, he need not be on a permanent basis. He can be on a case-to-case basis. Suppose in case you have some issues, you can always engage him and he can be on your panel. So like banks have panel advocates, banks have panel valuers. So they hand over a particular case to the valuer so that he does his job, submits, and he takes his fee. So like that, you can also have some panel advocates or somebody listed onto your this thing, so that their opinion also can be sought as and when the requirement is there. Yeah.
Yeah. To summarize that, I'll have to say the next Friday our topic is Introduction to Corporate Scandal Proofing Strategies and Solutions. So all the solutions what sir is trying to explain now, that would be that would be discussed in detail the following week. Any other questions, please?
Kalyan, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for organizing such a wonderful webinar where people of such stature are giving us answers. Otherwise, we can not even just dream of understanding how the system scandal was actually working. You'll only read what is available on internet. Somebody who's actually dealt the case first hand is coming and telling this is something I have not been a part of so far. I mean, I'm really overwhelmed. I'm sure there are a lot of people who concur with this.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for those words. We are taking it as our effort to add to the value, add value to the nation in any possible manner. So as Lakshmi Narayan sir rightly said, so if corporate is failing, it's our country that's failing on the other way. So whatever we are trying to do, give those inputs, give that information, give our experiences and to the corporate houses, because companies are the ones that we can't literally say it's a backbone, but yes, it is adding great value to the wealth of the nation. So if the corporates are failing, it's the other way. The nation is also failing. A corporate scam, say for example, a Satyam scam, that's there on the internet, that's there on, that's there in the history forever. So the moment you say, I'll have to say one example. I am in Karnataka, and I am a Telugu speaking person. So at one point when, I think about 10 years ago, when I told my name and I told I'm from Andhra Pradesh, and the people here made fun of me, and they said, okay, you are that Ramalingaraju person. Okay. So I felt so offensive. I felt so offended that, okay, one person has done a mistake, and, I feel that, these people are trying to generalize it to everybody. So it becomes a shame. It could be to the country, it could be to a community, it could be to a state. So it's better. So because it is an internal thing, it is okay. So tomorrow you go to the US or UK, somebody, the moment you say India, and if at all they're referring it to as Satyam, then it is definitely a shameful act. So whatever we're trying to do today is help those corporates, give those inputs, in with whatever experience we have. Any other question, please?
Yes, sir. It's Ranjit from Jaipur, Rajasthan. And I need assistance from Lakshmi, sir.
Yes.
Sir, actually, I'm a victim of a fraud of a private banking system. And I raised the concern to the Finance Ministry, RBI, and I lodged a complaint as well to the police. But there is no positive response from anybody. So
can you just give me the details? Just a brief details. What exactly has happened? Yeah.
Sir, actually, this is regarding one FDR that I made last year from a private bank. And without my knowledge, without my acknowledgement, and without my signature, it was being prematured by 2 agents.
Okay.
Okay. The amount came to my account, but I never knew it. And by the time when I came to know this, I came to know that this amount was transferred by these 2 so-called agents to their personal accounts.
Okay.
And the bank never forwarded me any post, any mail document to my home address. They never handed over me my FDR, my checkbook, or any other detail to me. I raised all this concern to the Finance Minister and to the RBI. I have raised RTI also for my same account. I'm just waiting for the RTI response. And meanwhile, if something else can be done from the legal part, can you just suggest me something can be done on that?
So this money trail is there, that the amount going to their accounts and all?
Yes. I have the complete full statement of my bank account.
Okay. So you stay in Jaipur?
Yes, I stay in Jaipur.
And the incident has happened in Jaipur?
No, actually the incident happened in Chandigarh. I was working. Yes, actually I'm a corporate trainer, and I was working with Discovery Channel for some motivational, I can say a training session for the employees and other things.
Okay. So what you can do is you can take my number from Mr. Kalyan Krishna.
Okay, sir.
Okay. I'll put you somebody in Chandigarh to help you. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Sure. That's thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot. So nice of you. Thanks.
Okay.
So, sir, Kalyan, sir, can you please just provide me the number after the session?
Could you, please text your number in the chat section. I'll make a note of it and I'll text you the number.
Sure, sir. Sure. I'm just typing it. Thanks.
Please, yeah. Any other questions, please? Any other questions, please? Are we done? No more questions? Okay, so then in that case, we'll try to conclude this. This was scheduled from 3:30 to 5:30. We are at 3 p.m. And still we see a lot of people in the chat room, in the video room. I thank everybody for attending this webinar. The next Friday, that is on the 25th of September 2020, our next the second part of the series, the webinar series. The topic is introduction to corporate scandal proofing strategies. This would be more about the preventive mechanisms, how to prevent from the scandals. Okay, so we'll be explaining. So you can recommend this to any of your friends or colleagues, whoever you think it is fit or necessary. So we'll be rolling out the necessary communications by email and WhatsApp. Okay, the way we did for this webinar. Should you be interested, we request you to join us again. So Lakshminarayan sir has committed.
And share recording link so that we can share it with our other people.
Surely, we'll surely send the recorded link. Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for your patience. Most importantly, Lakshminarayan sir and Chandrasekhar sir. I'll have to tell you that Justice Nagmohan Das sir couldn't connect for technical reasons. So he has his mobile in his hand and he's texting my other colleague that he's for some reason he's trying to call and it's not happening. Okay, so otherwise we had a very good session. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to Lakshminarayan sir and Chandrasekhar sir for giving their valuable time and its highest level expertise. They have set the highest bar in the country. Even Chandrasekhar sir has dealt the best of the best cases in India, be it in the High Court of Karnataka or in Supreme Court of India. And a very honest and thorough gentleman, I would say. Same goes with Lakshminarayan sir also. So these are two highly transparent persons, role models for anybody. And most importantly, somebody whom we can bank on for highest level expertise. So it's not that these two gentlemen are only known for their honesty or their sincerity, all that. They are known for their expertise and immediate solution providing. So thanks a lot, one and all. I would once again thank Lakshminarayan sir and Chandrasekhar sir for being a part of this. We'll reconnect on next Friday at the same time, 3:30 p.m.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.